Rick. Hi, and thank you for being here.
I'm very happy to be here. How are you doing today?
I am doing good.
Great.
You have over 30 years of experience in construction. What inspired you to turn your attention to tiny homes?
Back in 2001, I moved to Florida, and like a lot of people, I got a part-time job at Disney. And in working with coworkers, I saw a real challenge with having roommates because they couldn't afford a house by themselves. And obviously, that brings a lot of things to mind, but there was a few unique things that was surprising to me. One was if, like, you have three roommates and one of them can't afford to make the payment, it ruins everybody's credit. Now the other one can't go buy a home because of something out of their control. I also had one that goes, I live in a 100 square foot house, and then I share everything else. So I saw a real need to create some type of affordable housing. And that's really where the whole thing got started.
Can you share the story behind building your own energy-stingy home?
Oh, there is so many stories behind that one, but I'll try to keep it down to two because I know your time is precious. One of them was I was working for the city of Winter Park, and I was working there as an air conditioning technician. There was an office that was too hot, and I was assigned to go find out, well, why is the AC not working? Well, I found the AC was working fine. Now, try to paint this picture a little bit. The outside temperature was 60 degrees. We're trying to keep the office about 75. The sun was hitting the window. Guess what temperature the window was? Give me a number. What do you think the window temperature? Outside 60, inside we're trying to keep 75. The sun's hitting the window. What temperature is the window?
90.
It was actually 120 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So here's an office with a 100-degree panel. The AC couldn't keep up with the heat coming in. I realized that windows is the real no-no for a Florida home to have sunlight hit it. I also realized that you don't want windows that are too big, so you want to have it shaded. So in my house that I built, all the windows are shaded. The south ones have a porch, the north has a porch. On the west side, I have giant bamboo that shade the house, so none of the windows has sunlight, which is a huge factor. The second situation was I was living north of Disney, and I noticed that at nighttime, the AC was running, even though outside was colder than the house. And I realized that the walls were heating the house, the concrete walls, which a lot of homes build. I did some research and found that it's referred to as a thermal battery, meaning that it holds heat or holds temperature. It's used quite a bit in the northern states to hold temperature to keep the house warm. What I realized is in Florida, what we need is the thermal battery or the concrete to be inside the insulation, thereby keeping the house cool. Now, to give you an idea of the effectiveness of this week my air conditioning quit in my house. And the temperatures outside have been running like 98 degrees, 24 hours I had no AC. My house temperature only went up by 3 degrees. My wife didn't even know the AC quit. So I got it fixed and everything, and I never got in trouble, because it held the temperature cool. So I incorporated that in many other features in the house to make it energy stingy. The way you can know what your cooling cost is, you look at your lowest bill of the year. That's going to be the one where you're not heating and you're not cooling. Take that as a baseline, then look at your highest summer bill. The difference between those two is your cooling costs. And I had a house previously that the cooling cost was almost $300 a month. In my current house, it's $35.
So the insulation is supposed to go outside of the concrete? We don't do
Yes.
it that way, though.
You're exactly right. Most homes are built with a concrete wall, stucco on the outside, or a concrete on the outside, and insulation on the inside. And it creates that thermal mass or battery that heats up all day long and then heats you up because now you're inside your own oven. And it's backwards.
So knowing this, why don't we change that?
That is a very good question. And here's why. Let's say that we had two homes side by side. One's built energy stingy and one's standard. The energy stingy costs an extra 10% more, right? You're a consumer, you're looking at the houses, they don't look any different. Would you pay an extra 10% for the one on the right? Of course not. So it's driven by the consumer wanting the cheaper home, not realizing that his electric bill is going to be significantly different for his entire life in the home. So it's really consumer driven without them even knowing. And that's part of why I created the Energy Stingy trademark, and we're going to use it in our homes. All of our homes in our tiny house neighborhoods will be energy stingy and have thermal batteries on the correct side of the insulation.
Nice. So, is there any way to retrofit an already built home?
Not it's really expensive because you'd have to add insulation on the outside of the house and then another layer of siding. That's more of a when it's getting built process. Now the windows, when they can, because all I got to do is block the sun from hitting the window. So they can put up an awning, a bush, a tree, a hedge, or like me, I grew giant bamboo on the west side of my house. It's 30 feet high and it's a nice long hedge, and just the whole house stays in the shadow.
Can you describe the philosophy behind tiny homes?
This is an interesting question because if you go back a couple of hundred years, everybody lived in small houses, predominantly. As people gained higher economics, people built bigger homes. We become a country that loves the larger homes. But there's now a movement moving against that, and it's for several pieces. And I wrote it down. I want to make sure I cover it. One is like my grandfather, when he was an empty nester, he goes, I don't want to clean a big house anymore. Amazingly, 17% of our clientele are moving down to something that is smaller so they don't have to clean as much. The second is the minimalist. This is somebody who realizes I don't need all the extra stuff. I need a place to sleep, eat, bathroom. Other than that, I go to work. So I don't need a huge house. And so the minimalist point of view. The third is the environmentally conscious, because obviously a smaller building uses less materials. And if it's energy stingy, you have less electric bill, which is also environmental friendly. And of course, probably the biggest one is that the average buyer can't afford a starting home in Central Florida. Right now, that is $390,000 for a starting production home. And so many people can't afford that. And so it's very crucial to find something better. And that's what we have. We actually have a model that starts at $225. And it has the basics, has your own place.
225?
Yes.
It's still kind of high.
Well, yes. And there's other people who do other options. You know, we're not for everybody. We're hitting that niche that's below the 390 that most people can't, that a lot of people can't cover.
What are some of the innovative design solutions that you've implemented in Dreamquest tiny neighborhoods?
Oh, I love this question. This is a great one. So the first thing is what I call the social circle. Typically, what we have is the homes, we put about 20 homes in a circle facing inward. Now with them facing inward, with the front doors all facing in and they all have front porches, there's several things that happen. Number one, you get that small town feel that everybody likes. Everybody likes to know they're part of this nice little group. It increases the connectivity. You know, you get to talk to people, you get to know people. In the middle, we have the barbecue and picnic tables and recreational area. And so it becomes a social nugget, you know, neighborhood kind of thing. The other thing that social circle helps is it reduces crime, because crime doesn't want to walk in front of 20 front doors to get to your house. So ours is naturally a low crime. The second is solid. There is a big, huge misconception that if you build small, you have to be cheap. Our homes are built with a concrete foundation, concrete walls. They're even Category 5 hurricane rated walls, so they're shelter in place. Very, very solid. And of course, energy stingy. So we have shaded windows that are not oversized, the thermal battery on the right side of the insulation, and the other factors that make it energy stingy for a low electric bill.
Talking about the community and neighborhood that you had put together, how can tiny homes transform communities and promote sustainability?
Well, probably the biggest one is it reduces urban sprawl. Urban sprawl is a thorn in the side of every government because infrastructure is expensive. You got more roads, you got more power lines, you got buses that have to go out to these people, and it makes it really hard to service them. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who don't want to live in a high-rise condominium, and we fit in between. We're higher density than the urban sprawl, and we fit in to help reduce that sprawl. The other thing, of course, is we are creating a very permanent home. This is not a house that's going to rot out in 5 or 8 years. It's concrete. It's going to last, outlive me.
What are some of the misconceptions about tiny living and how do you address them?
Well, probably the biggest one comes from the one I mentioned before, where people think that if it's affordable, it's cheap, and it's built cheap, and it's going to rot, and it's going to be like the projects. And we do that by showing what ours are built different, the concrete walls, the Energy-Stingy, that kind of thing. A lot of people think, when they think tiny houses, they only think of the ones that are on wheels, which is what you see a lot of YouTube videos about. And in fact, that's only one small part of the market. There's a huge variety of tiny homes, for example, of tiny living, let's put it that way. So you have condos, you have apartments, you have accessory dwelling units, which is like a mother-in-law apartment in the backyard. You have tiny house on wheels, which we just talked about, ours, which are tiny house on foundations. You even have container homes and even converted buses and sheds, that people are doing. So another thing, because of the concept of the ones on wheels that don't qualify for regular financing or insurance, people think, well, I can't get insurance or financing. Ours, of course, are built like a regular house, just small. And so they definitely do have that. Another one is that you get NIMBY. You know what NIMBY is? Not in my backyard? Yeah. So you get people that go, well, we don't want anybody in our backyard that is not like us. And so we face that a little bit, and that just comes with time and growth. Particularly, we do this by sharing what we're doing, building relationships. It's all a relationship building thing.
What advice would you give someone considering a tiny home lifestyle?
First, realize it's not for everybody. And you got to find out if it's right for you. Take your house and go, okay, I'm not going to live in this portion of the house, and let's see how well I can live in this smaller footprint and see if it's right for you. That's a very important one. Of course, make sure you got something that's going to last long. You don't want to convert a shed and have it rot out in 5 years. You don't want a tiny house on wheels that goes down in value like an RV. You want something that's built solid on site and has good wind rating so that you don't blow away in a hurricane, And you definitely want to have something that is city, county inspected. It's an inspected building, so you make sure that it's up to building codes.
How can people in Orange County get involved or learn more about tiny homes and sustainable living?
The first thing would be to do an internet search, because there's literally thousands of people. The neat thing about this, an important need like affordable, which is now called workforce attainable housing, is that anytime you have a need in this country, 1,000 people go in different ways to try to solve it. And you can find a lot of that. Now, if you want to be involved with us, the best place would be go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, or be a donor to our nonprofit, be a volunteer, help us network the community, because it's all about building relationships, or even invest in our sister company that does the actual building of the homes.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking your time and telling us more about the different ways to design a tiny home.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so much fun. I love the design side of it. Being able to design something that's going to be very functional, creative, and help people. It's all about helping people.
Yeah, I like your creativity.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe to our channel and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts.